Us, trust everyone's
Us.
well. Us, very special guest as always. I have here today, guys, in respect of women in Kyokushin, mothers in Kyokushin, but also this is a cool week for the women of Kyokushin. So I have a very special guest here from Canberra in ACT, Sensei Janelle Field. Sensei, how are you?
I'm well, very well. Thank you. Even after being locked in for 6 weeks.
I was going to say, how is everything going there in Canberra as such, but more so for you?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. I'm dying to get back to normal routine because my whole life is I work out of gyms.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a big effect for me.
Well, let's get stuck in right now. I'm sure it would be too. But Sensei, so again, and most of you all know the routine here, but I go on a past, present, future, and we build our way into it. So I'm looking forward to the chat. I always ask the first one, which starts the ball rolling. How and when did you get introduced to martial arts or Kyokushin as such?
Well, oddly, this year is my 40th year. So it's my
Congratulations.
40 Kyokushin years
Wow.
anniversary. Some of you may know, my brother is Shihan Trevor Field.
Yes.
So I started, actually I didn't directly start training with him, but in Mackay, which is our hometown.
Yes.
I was about 15 when I started, just gave away my age, but there you go. And because I didn't have a license and couldn't travel, I actually couldn't get to the main dojo. And one of the other instructors had started a very small dojo in just a little hall down the road from where I live with my parents. So I started there, but it wasn't long. And the next year I sort of had my license and could travel. So we all sort of convened back to the main dojo.
Right. So it's in the family. And we'll get to Shihan Trevor a bit later. This is your moment,
Yep.
of course. But in respect of that, it's in the family. It's in the environment. And I guess you were, in love with what was happening. In love meaning you were attracted to it by what in what way?
I guess I'd seen, Trevor as a part of it for so long. And it always interested me. I probably would have
Right.
started earlier had I been able to. In hindsight, yes, I should have. The earlier you start, the
Yeah.
easier it is, so to speak. Flexibility, But at the end of 40 years, I can say,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started in time.
No, well done. And so you're in your, I guess, teens as such, and you started driving. And was your dojo female? I guess were you one of the only ones? How was that being, promoted as such?
The main dojo was very much male dominated at that point. There had been females come through, but when I started, I actually started with two other girls, one who ended up marrying Michael Cousin, who was one of our contact fighters, and another girl named Andrea, who was at that stage the partner of Scott Cousins, who was Michael Cousins'
Okay.
brother. So, but we started together, but they lasted a little while, I guess.
Yeah.
But no longer training.
And in that point, it leads to, the training against men and being a part of that environment, and it's full contact karate. And, 40 years ago, as such, respectfully understanding there was a moment in a couple of the other interviews I've had where they said, no, there's no such thing as shin pads and gloves. How are you adjusting to this type of, I guess, contact?
Well, I guess we didn't always train full contact.
Okay.
There's a lot of other sides to it, but
Yes.
Anyone who knows a little bit of that time and the fighters in that time, we had a lot of the very prominent fighters in our dojo. We had the Brad Madam, we had Michael Young, Michael Cousin. We had a very, very much a fighting club at that time. Brad was a year ahead of me at school, and I guess he was pretty much an inspiration for me as well, because at his young age, he was doing fantastic, amazing things. So, was great to have him as a bit of an inspiration.
Well, there you go. You've dropped some absolute mammoth names there, and they've all come through the lineage of your brother and so forth. But in respect to being around these lads, as I gesture politely, the ambition for black belt, was it there? Following your brother's footsteps and these lads, or were you just going about your business and just being encouraged by staying fit and healthy?
I mean, I love training. I did then, I do now. Our family was very sporty from a very young age. Growing up in Queensland, we all played a lot of other sport. I can remember, being at training in the dojo, having come from work, been to, softball practice, trained at the dojo, and then went home, got changed and played indoor cricket all in the same night.
Wow.
So it was definitely a focus, and a very big focus, but at that early point, it wasn't the only focus.
Very
That
good.
sort of came later.
Yeah. And so the illustrious black belt, did that come about with your desire? What was your, and walk us through, that time as to the endure of.
Well, I moved to Canberra in 1987.
Okay.
And I still wasn't a black belt.
Right.
I didn't do my Shodan grading till 1996, so I sat for 9 years on brown. When I moved to Canberra, we had there was a dojo in Canberra run by Wayne Smith. We called Big Wayne Smith because in Queensland we had another Wayne Smith.
Okay.
So the Wayne Smith in Canberra we always called Big Wayne Smith, and he had a Japanese instructor here by the name of Kaneko.
Oh, yes.
So that was the Canberra dojo when I arrived, and there was also another visiting instructor, Yoshida, from Japan, who had come out on a 2-year sort of uchi-deshi stint.
Right.
So I was training with them when I first moved here, and then pretty much not long after, the dojo, Kaneko moved away and I kind of took over the dojo. But my Shodan didn't come till 1996 when I sort of got the tap on the shoulder from the brother saying, "Hey, look, you're running a dojo. It's about time you made the move."
Well, that's cool. And where was it, and how was it? And was it as tough as they?
In Canberra. Yeah, it was in Canberra in front of my students. At that stage, I had was running the dojo out of a PCYC in the city. I had quite a big dojo, quite a lot of junior students being a PCYC, and I wanted to do the grading so that they could see I'd been through it and what you have to do to go through it. So I wanted to, sort of be their role model, I guess.
Yeah, fantastic. Well done. And did you go through the 5-6 hours and the ending of Kumite? Walk us through how you felt, and I mean 9 years on your brown belt as such, black tag, and then you finally had your shot. Were you ready? How did you go?
I can remember it being a very long, hard day. No compensation from Big Brother there, I'd have to say. He wanted everyone to know that I'd earned it and done, exactly what needs to be done. So, it's
Well
awesome.
done. Very good. And I say, well done in respect of, I guess I'm targeting here the influence that you would have had with a lot of your students and predominantly male, as we know, as such with karate, martial, Kyokushin. But you would have pushed a lot of men to their limits, and you would have challenged them a lot. How did you, adapt, or how? If my internet's a bit unstable, it said there, but excuse us. But how did you go with the development, of coaching and teaching and all of those next steps with your black belt and so forth?
Yeah, I think coming through the Mackay Dojo, I had a pretty good understanding of defense.
Yeah.
Footwork, moving, hit or be hit. So I guess I've always tried to develop that side of the training. It is, back, say 30 years ago, when I was running the dojo and started having male fighters, it was quite uncommon to turn up at a tournament and have a female coaching a male fighter, you know. So I guess my particular highlight, I had quite a few very good fighters, but my particular highlight in fighting is coaching Panos Munyard, who won the Australian Heavyweight Championship at the Nationals in Mackay.
Wow.
So for me to train a heavyweight guy to win the national championships was just like unbelievable.
Well done.
I think a few people thought that too.
And how did you, okay, so that's one great highlight. And how did you then develop the rest as such? Or how were you encouraging the others, you know, like, was it something that once that happened, then it's like, well, here we go, you know, how did you become that?
It was, we had a really good dojo at the time.
Right.
From Panos winning the nationals, that was sort of back in the day, if I should say, where you almost had to qualify to fight in Japan. So the next year, I took him to Okinawa, to Naha, and he fought in the tournament over there. So again, I guess that was another big step for me, another big highlight for me, is turning up to Japan as a coach.
There you go.
And this, at that stage, I had fought in Japan myself. So
great.
coming back as a coach with a fighter was just a whole different learning curve.
Well, you've segued something there, and I excuse my manner in respect of you competing, because I normally jump into when was the first time you headed to Japan. So I guess that may answer the time you fought over there as well. Can you share with us that highlight as well?
Well, the first time I went over was 91. I went to the World Titles.
Great.
That was my first visit. Of course, you would know, once you've seen a tournament of that magnitude, and in the 90s, you know, the fighters we're still talking about them.
Yeah,
you
legends.
know, so amazing fighters, and you know, multiple day tournaments where they had to fight their way through.
Yes.
You know, to make it to the second day. So 91 was my first visit to Japan. I guess, once you've seen something like that, it's just like you can't get enough. You got to go back, you know. But 1997 was when I fought.
Okay.
I was 32 when I fought in Japan, so I was an old girl.
Yeah, righto.
I fought at the first World Cup.
Okay.
Which also was very early in, you know, having women fight in full contact. There was, I think, the first time they'd opened was the first World Cup, but I think it was the first time they'd opened it up for women.
Right.
So, and again, that was it was a qualified tournament. You had to qualify to get in. There were 10 areas of the world that had to send a team, so to speak. So that was my sort of how I got to fight in Japan.
And how did you go?
Fought a Russian girl, my first fight. Went to extension, and then unfortunately broke my foot on her knee.
Hey, why did you do that?
I know. It's one of those things you can't take it back.
Oh, well, that would have been a belter. A couple of extensions down the stretch. And then did you know you had, you know, I allude to the fact of when you did it, did you know, or did you,
I knew.
I
knew something was very wrong.
There's some that do it and then walk off and go, oh, I'm not sure why it's now the size of a gumboot. And you're like, oh, you've broken. Oh, I didn't, you know, and then you move on. Oh, well, that's great. That's cool. So again, in just coming back that bit, you went there, you competed, you traveled in 91 and 97, and you're now tasting and understanding what it takes. And I've shared that with others. You do go there, and then you come back, and then you kind of go, shit, this is what it takes now. And then you instill it in your pupils, your students. So now I get the success that you had with your heavyweight there at the Nationals. So that was cool. So your trips to, I guess, Japan, and then after the World Tournament, were you on a high in respect of like, did you continue on, like 32, were you continually fighting? Were you looking, where were you looking, I guess, next in your chapter, you know, of competing after that world tournament success and representing Australia?
I think I'd realized then that, I mean, you never, as a fighter, you never want to say that's the
Yeah,
last time.
yeah,
I still watch tournaments and go, oh, I wish I could get in there, you know.
right, yeah,
But then, you know, 32,
yeah,
there's the other side of it.
yeah,
I mean, I still spar regularly now, because when you've got people in the
unreal.
dojo, I've got tournament fighters at the moment, you know.
Sure.
So I guess I've never really been out of it for too long,
Yeah,
apart from a few sort of minor injuries. But yeah, now in my mid 50s, you have to be, in some ways, you have to be more alert,
right.
more reactive. You maybe sometimes even fitter, faster,
Yeah,
because you've got to be that step ahead. And if you're not, then why are you the leader?
right. No, good points.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
you know, it makes me keep up my fitness. It makes me keep up my
yeah,
knowledge, my reaction, you know, all
yeah,
that sort of stuff.
yeah, no, for sure. And you, you know, again, you in that instructor manner, you know, where you've run your dojo since then. So you've run it continuously. You've had, oh,
Yes.
amazing, well done. So
Yeah.
from that, how have you? I guess one question I haven't asked some of the other ladies is the evolution of it. You know, you've seen so much of the evolution of it, been a part of it. You know, through family as well, in understanding an organization and being a part of all of that. How have you evolved as such with it? You know, have you had an emphasis of being an instructor that focuses on what's been your theme as such in sharing it with us?
I guess a lot of the focus I channel towards what's happening in the dojo at the time. We
Okay.
don't have a large dojo for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So the focus has been around
Who's
what the
there?
students want. So
Right.
we sit down every now and again, and, you know, perhaps at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, and say, what do you guys want this year?
Okay.
Do you want to keep tournament fighting? You know, because when you've got a small dojo, everybody's got to be on board
Yes.
with that, and you've got to tailor it to. You still teach the beginners, but if you've got people who want to fight, you've got to tailor a
Yeah.
portion of the training to that.
Yeah.
My personal sort of goals, I guess, is just to keep learning and evolving. There's, you
Yeah.
know, people have said to me over the years, why are you still doing it?
Right.
You know, like,
Right. Yeah.
surely you don't need to anymore. You're this age, or you're that age, or you're this grade, or you're that grade. And my answer is always, I'm not satisfied.
Wow.
There's
Yeah.
still so much. Every time particularly when I go back to Mackay or we have our annual camp,
Mm.
I am just blown away by what I still don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so for me, that just keeps me going. Even at the moment, we're doing, you know, Zoom training, as are a lot of people, and just being reminded things, um, even low level. I'm not talking like belt level, but, you know, coming back to grassroots things, revision, all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
application at a higher level at the little that I want to take to, you know.
Understood. Yeah, no, that's very good. That's a good reminder again to everyone. Yeah, it is, you know, the half glass full, as they say, but actually appreciating. And I guess the pedigree of Mackay is second to none, and the standards there are second to none as well. So it would instill a lot of, you know, I guess, good morals to everyone, all the way up to yourself, you know, and making sure, go back to basics and make sure you sharpen this again and make sure you do that again. That's right.
Yeah.
Sensei, you know, your second Dan and third Dan gradings as such, you know, you graded overseas. Can we walk through some of that as such? Or if you didn't, I know you know, we'll lead towards what you just told me earlier, how you missed out on the last one, but how did your second and third Dan gradings go in respect of your age and where you were at and how you were, going about the journey?
In 98, I did my Sandan in 2004 my yarn I did in Mackay
Right.
with now Shihan Aaron and Shihan Zach Hayes.
Yes.
Shihan Aaron, those of you that don't know, is my nephew, and Shihan
Yes.
Trevor Field. So we have pretty much, weathered a lot of storms together. So when the two boys, Shihan Zach and Shihan Aaron, went did their grading their fifth dan in Yamagata 2 years ago, and it's right on 2 years ago. So I proudly say I was there to watch them and push them through that and help them through that and celebrate at the end, because to me that's another highlight. Family,
Yeah.
for me is huge, and because there is the three of us involved, and to go over with the guys and see them through that grading was amazing.
Yeah.
And to see them attain that rank.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing, wasn't it? Especially with the family, and so you're, I guess, upon getting your, I guess, third Dan, when the sensei status came in, and there's very, very few female senseis, respectfully. So, you're one of very few at that time, more so. How was there pressure on you? Were you feeling more of a, responsibility? I'm sure you did, but, how did you take it?
Yeah, I guess being away, being in Canberra and not being, close to sort of the guys that I'd come through with, my family that are involved, is quite a different experience. It took a long time to get used to being called sensei. People say, well, sensei, and you don't turn around and they, Sensei Janelle. oh, yeah, that's me. Took a little while to get used to that.
Yeah.
But I feel I've earned it.
Yes. Okay, we've just had a move of outdoors to indoors, so just through the technical stuff, but that's cool. So, Sensei, you were mentioning, I guess, the third Dan status, the sensei status from a female, level in Kyokushin, and you definitely earned it, and I guess we're at that point. So, how from there did you, again, you were accepting it. It was challenging as such for some of your students to call you, and you were still trying to, realize what's been going on, and how did it go from there?
Well, I guess after doing the Sandan, that's when I really got into the coaching, because for me, my choice was to coach others, to train them to fight those who wanted to, and take the focus could no longer be on me. I didn't want to run a dojo and still be fighting. And I think if you've got students, they're there to learn from you.
Sure.
In some instances, leading by example is fantastic, and it's a fun thing to do if you take a heap of people off to a tournament and everybody's in there. But I guess when you perhaps your students get to some higher levels, then you really got to, I think, give them all you've got.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so you definitely, that's a how do I say that, the responsibility and the language changes as well, doesn't it? The language of like now making sure that they are okay, and that they're safe, and that all those key things, the duty of care that you have, as lifts another level, doesn't it? So how were some of the highlights, I guess, that you can share with us? I know for a fact that you refereed in a couple of world tournaments, and I know for a fact one of them was my fight.
It was Toyama in 2012.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you, as all, situations and all these fights, it's just such a magic experience to be there with everyone that, how was your experience with those types of, or not challenges, but I guess opportunities that were given to you there?
Yeah. Refereeing was something, I had been doing for a long time. I have refereed in tournaments all over Australia, at all levels of tournaments. So to take the next step, to get that international sort of qualification, and then to referee at the tournament was terrifying. I guess at the next level, I had been there as a fighter, I'd been there as a coach. To be there as a referee as well was just like, to me, was like the cherry on top. Was like,
oh, that's
wow,
cool.
who would have thought I could have done all that,
Yeah.
I remember being terrified though, and walking, we'd done all the practice, we'd done all the training,
Right.
we'd done the run throughs, but actually when you walk up those steps onto the stage, and you would remember it was an elevated stage on the floor, and the lighting was so goddamn hot. I thought I was going to die. Plus the nerves and the heartbeat, and the adrenaline's pumping.
Yeah.
And I thought, I think this is worse than being a fighter.
Yeah.
Because at least when you're the fighter, you really don't control the decision. Well, you're trying to, but
No. Yeah.
But but after one or two fights, you just sort of calm everything. You know what you're doing. You wouldn't be there if you didn't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And but
that's
as
good
you would know, it's a different world when you're judging.
Yeah, no, but I mean, your detail there, I hadn't heard it in that manner, and that was cool because, whether it was, in that my bout or and the others that you may have refereed and been a part of, the intensity at that level just changes gears, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
you don't want to make a mistake.
and not, it's not pressure, like I mean, and I'm not talking on behalf, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it was, because I didn't even know as such until maybe, I swear to you, I didn't even know until I started watching footage of the tape, maybe a year, or, whenever it was. And I was like, oh, is that? Oh, I didn't even know she was a judge, or you were judging that bout, because I was the fighter's just so in the element and in the zone.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I think you came up to me and your team was like, well done, good job, congratulations, it was awesome. And I was like, oh yeah, thank you so much, that's great. And then until the end, I didn't even know. So that's, so you the referees as such, and your level of experience there was you being excited and nervous, as well as the fighter as well. So, but what a ride there. Hey, like you just said, from fighter to coach to then being referee in the world tournaments, and the not being too, not making a mistake. The pressure of that, it would have been unreal. Yeah. And then also, not only that, all the Shihans of the world and the organization, to the left or to the right of you at the time, no pressure at all.
Yeah. And then one added pressure being female.
Yes.
Because there's not many of us. I think Toyama may and don't quote me, but may have been the first time that they had let the females judge as well. So I know that was at the time for me was a huge thing.
Oh wow.
It's another breakthrough, that glass ceiling, I suppose.
I wouldn't have even thought of that because of the level here in Australia, and there's female referees, judges, and that's the same. Oh, there you go. Oh, well done. Yeah, I hope again, if that's the case, so be it. But if not, either way, what an achievement. From there, how you mentioned how the things from here and the present as such, the way you love training, the way you're keeping fit, you work in gyms, you're actively, heavily involved in health and fitness. How are you seeing, I guess, the developments of Kyokushin with the fitness side and the discipline side of what you've seen and been a part of, in Mackay and in 40 years of being in dojos and fitness facilities as such? What are you seeing? What are you, wanting more of, maybe, or what's some of the message you'd like to pass?
Well, I guess going back 40 years ago, the training was very different in the I guess respect that it was, I don't want to say harder, but more physical in a lot of ways. We didn't do a lot of cross training, so to speak, you know.
Okay.
Shihan Trevor's, some of his famous words are, the only way to get better at karate is to do more karate. Great philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that
Unreal.
also goes back to basics. You know, coming through being in the fitness industry in Canberra here for about 30 years now,
Wow.
I have to say I do incorporate a lot of the fitness element into our training. There's a place for it. You know, not all the time, because, you know, as most dojos know, you only have limited time with your students. We don't have unlimited sessions or unlimited time, and people are time poor. Maybe not at the moment, but in a normal circumstance, people are time poor. And if they want to come and train karate, they want to come and train karate. They don't want to do so much of the, you know, the cross training or,
I gotcha.
you know, sometimes you've really got to leave it up to them to do, and put the onus back on them to do their own fitness training.
Yes.
Because when you come to the dojo, we need to focus on,
Yes.
you know, what we're doing at the moment. So
no, that's good. Good point. Yeah. So I get. Yeah. No, that's good thing to raise. I see the same sometimes, but then I contradict myself and then have a fitness class, and then, you know, I see a level of fitness drop in certain months of the year as such, and then I go, right, we're going to have to do this. I'm not liking the way some of you have come back from a 2-week holiday, etc., etc.
Absolutely. Yeah. Imagine what we're going to go back to.
Well, there you have it. And in getting you, you know, you've been in the fitness industry for 30 years. How are you, I guess, seeing, you know, the key components, I guess, components meaning the key attributes of fitness, you know, in sharing a bit of knowledge there in that avenue? You know, what is it? Is it getting people back to running, jogging, walking? You know, what are some of the attributes you're seeing here that you would be putting towards your clients and your industry?
Well, I've sort of been trying to encourage my students to keep active.
Yeah.
How they do that, you know, it sometimes is very individual.
Yeah.
It might depend on whether they're still working, whether they, you know, in Canberra now, it's cold and dark, morning and night. So it does limit you. You can't go to the gym, can't go to training. So some of them, I think, might struggle when we come back. We'll all struggle a little bit because, hey, I don't think, you know, many people are going to come back at the same level of fitness that we, you know, bowed out 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I think you've just got to do everything that you can, you know, to make that path easier, because you don't want it to be so goddamn hard that it really hurts and you just don't want to do it, you know?
Yeah. No, fair enough. No, that's cool. Sensei, you know, we've got about 5 or 10 minutes left. So how, you know, some of the highlights you've raised have been great. Now, you know, have you been, I guess the word I'm looking for, who's blown you away in Kyokushin in the 40 years? Blown you away, meaning the respect of, like, as the fighters that have come out of the stable of Mackay, the journeys of your troops overseas, the overseas, you know, people as such, you know, what's something that's highlighted you and that you've always, you know, cherished as such?
It's hard to pick one from
Don't.
Mackay. You
Yeah,
know,
I
I
don't
don't
want
want
to
to
put
hurt
anyone
anyone's
on the bus.
feelings.
I guess
I don't want any.
highlight some of them because that's a little bit, and I respect it. I mean, I respect it in the fact of you sharing some of that, because you're the eyes and ears in there, and I'm obviously going to eventually get to your nephew and your brother, but this is a nice starting point for others to really understand Mackay as such, but then also, you know, again, how you saw it from a female, you know, eyes, and how tough it was.
Well, I guess for me, Brad Madam, apart from being a phenomenal fighter, the nunchucks.
All right.
I've never seen anyone move.
Cool.
You know, I mean, he has been all over the world with them. And even just a few years ago at one of our annual camps, he brought them to camp and did a demonstration. And, you know, in his 50s, he didn't look any different to me than when he was a teenager throwing them around. So I was just blown away, and I thought, man, that's, you know, that's a different skill. That's something that takes constant practice. And, you know, so from that perspective, that is always a fond memory, I guess. Some of my oldest and dearest and closest friends are still the karate guys from Mackay, which is probably quite odd, but, you know, spent a lot of time with them. And still have over the years, you know, still traveling and going to Japan, still, you know, 2 years ago doing camp in Japan and watching Shihan Aaron and Shihan Zach do their fifth dans, you know. So it's always been a group thing. We've traveled a lot. I've been blessed that I've traveled a lot with my family in that respect, you know.
Good point.
So that to me is a blessing. Other people around the world, other fighters, wow, I've seen so many, you know, Andy Hug, unbelievable. Right through to, you know, Zukamoto in more recent years, Shimajiri, just, so many fabulous fighters, fabulous techniques. Though, you know, looking back to the world titles, 91, 95, 99, the battle that they had to go through back then to get through the tournament was phenomenal. You know, we will probably never see that type of tournament again.
Right.
As in, you know, 2 days of fighting through rounds and rounds, and you know, just the tenacity of the fighters was unbelievable. You know, we were exhausted to come back the next day and watch, so God only knows how they were feeling.
No.
And then I have to mention all the sayonara parties, because that's, as you know, that's where the battle, isn't it? That's where you get to meet people, to talk to people, to befriend people, you know, from all around the world. And that happens all the time. And that's an amazing experience as well, to come together at the end of, whether you were just watching, whether you were competing, participating at any level, to be able to then have that sort of access to the very, very senior grades as well as the fighters is just amazing.
They're great points. Very cool. That's the sayonara parties. Geez, you know, I guess you have a window there to let loose, but you also have a window there that amazingly the sisterhood and the brotherhood just doubles, doesn't it? Because everyone's all got the same meaning, the same love, and the same, you know, purpose. And
all there for the same reason.
That's very cool. Sensei, from here, you know, you continue to train your 40th year, and you know, I wish you well with, you know, your potential next promotion to 5th Dan as a Shihan. And you know, how are you going to continue, how do you continue on with, I guess, once COVID's out the window, but you just continue to, you know, train 2-3 times a week? Can you share with us how you are so active and fit and strong at your age and going towards, you know, potential Shihan status?
Well, as I said, I've been in the industry in Canberra for 30 years. I teach a lot of group exercise classes. So I teach a lot of strength work, core work, right down to boxing classes, you know, all facets, high intensity training, all facets of fitness. So the good thing for me is that's my job. So I don't have to do a whole lot more. In my own time, I like a lot of the outdoorsy sort of stuff. I've got some great hills, mountain climbs in Canberra that some friends and I do very regularly. That's you know, it's a different type of fitness. You get very used to whatever you do all the time, and you can get through it. So I always like to keep challenging myself. And I think that's the way forward for as long as I can.
You've just motivated me to go start walking up some hills, I think. And I mean, it's just, yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. Very cool to hear. And, I guess, what, from here as such, and in respect of how, the 40 years that you've given to Kyokushin, I'm highlighting this on this level. And I guess, if there was anything else you wanted to share, the floor is yours. I don't mean to put it on the spot. I just like to see if sometimes we may have forgotten something, or how you may want to raise something. But if you want, the floor is yours. For all those listening, 40 years in Kyokushin, and so many stories and so many, highlights. I know we've only raised a handful as such of yours at the minute, but if there was anything else you'd like to share, please feel free, and the floor is yours.
No, I think we've covered, most of what I thought we would cover.
Yeah.
I have to say thanks for the invite. I was stoked. The whole
Oh,
family
good.
was stoked, actually. So
No,
I hope I've done them proud.
no.
And I guess my parting words would be, I'm still not satisfied, so I'm still going to keep going.
Well, that's a great message to all of us, in respect of how to do about it. And the invite was, again, to all those out there. I was getting feedback when I was going to get females and lady, women in Kyokushin was my title, because I respect you guys a lot. I've seen you a lot over the years, in respect of, obviously, we've traveled overseas and so forth, and your family has such a strong heritage. And in that respect, congratulations to you on your 40th year. I wish you all the best for your 5th Dan, and continue to be such a fantastic and amazing ambassador of Kyokushin. And well done. And yeah, you've done your family amazingly proud. There's no doubt about that. And I hope this interview has given some of you, the family in Mackay as such, all the legends that have come out of there. I'm sure you can talk so highly about Sensei. And please comment, when you get a window here, when I put this up on Facebook, that's the gesture back in showing your appreciation. So Sensei, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Us, have a great day. Us, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.